Oh, wonderful. You're gracing us with your presence again. Did you forget something? Perhaps a crucial element of entertainment from last week's podcast. Clearly, the last guest was such a smash hit that we immediately promoted her to banned from even being mentioned in the same breath as the royal corgis' food dish. You know, the one they don't even use anymore.
Hey, old guys can be cute too.
Yeah, I know.
And get this, Karen's taking a personal day, which means Mikey's in charge. Picture a baby giraffe trying to solve a Rubik's Cube during a thunderstorm. Of course, while wearing roller skates. Yeah, it's going to be that level of smooth. Honestly, I'm already grabbing the popcorn. This is going to be spectacularly awful. Let's watch the disaster unfold, shall we?
And good evening and welcome to another edition of Loose Ends. As our depressive AI British host says, Karen is away today, so that means the mice get to play. Tonight on Loose Ends, we are joined with our special guest, Sara. I don't know anything about her, so Karen is currently working on, she works for the Canadian Armed Forces, and so she is currently working on one of the vessels, and she'll be back with us next week, same bat channel, same bat time. So we are really super excited with Loose Ends. We are now going into month 3, if you can imagine. Is it month 3 already, Sara?
I think so.
I think so. It's been crazy. So this is one of those concepts I wanted to try many years ago, but to set up a guest, Karen does all the vetting and stuff. So when did you get vetted with Sara or with Karen, Sara?
Early February.
Early February. So she vets, make sure it's the right fit, because some people don't know who I am. And it's like me going into a craft show and teaching, and then I just like hit these people with my humor. And well, I like to call it humor. And they're like, what the hell did they sign up for? So we are here to enjoy ourselves for this evening with our friend Sara. And so let's take some time. Sara, it looks like Karen is joining us on the chat today, and she is currently floating in the sea somewhere, or she might be docked tonight. She'll let you know in the chat. So for those that are joining here on Facebook, our Facebook parameters are very tight. The filters are very tight. Wendy is off tonight. She usually reads those comments before pushing it through. So why don't you come on over here to YouTube, and you can pretty much get in on the conversation there as well. So Sara, where are you from in the world?
I am from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
Have you always been there?
I was born in Connecticut, moved to Philly when I was 3, lived in Puerto Rico, New York, Israel, but mainly Philly.
Well, you got a lot of miles on your ass, girl.
It's true. It's true.
That's quite. What did you do in Philly? I want to know about Puerto Rico. I love Puerto Rico. So
oddly enough, I lived in Puerto Rico for half a year, or when I was a toddler. Like, I remember literally only two things from my time there. It's like my first memories. There was a parrot that lived in our apartment building. I remember that. And I remember the walk from the apartment building to the beach. But my memory of it, I'm sure, is wrong because I was 3.5. But we went there for my dad's job.
So what's the best thing about living in Philadelphia? My parents, we did a family trip. There's actually a photograph of me somewhere on the platform, me sitting on the beach by myself, and we went to Ocean City for a week vacation. We went through Philadelphia. I was in charge with the maps. This is before GPS, Sara, and I got ourselves lost in Philadelphia. And I was like, because I got us off some kind of whatever. And anyway, it was just like, what a disaster that was, getting lost downtown Philadelphia.
Well, it's interesting that you got lost downtown because it is a grid. So, you know.
So that was good. So that's
impressive.
Normal.
It's impressive.
Oh. Well, you know, as my mother would probably say, I'm a special kind of stupid. So, so what made you want to come on the show with us tonight?
I moved back to the States in May 2020, which was a hard time to move in there. And I had left the life I thought I was going to live forever and was suddenly alone in the pandemic, and found the crochet crowd. And that became my primary community for a long time. I'd been crocheting since I learned when I was 5 from my grandma, but there was something about just existing on that Facebook community that was my community and has continued to be my inspiration for crocheting, my escape from the world. And I've learned a lot. Yeah. So,
you know, I've learned a lot too. Like honestly, when I first started this whole nightmare, I literally did not know how to read patterns. And then somebody asked me a pattern question. I'm like, beats me, because I learned to do with those diagrams. And I'm like, oh shit, I think I actually have to learn how to do this kind of stuff. And as much as I'm teaching people, they're also teaching me in return. It's like, what's that stitch? I haven't seen that before. And it makes me want to investigate. So I find there is a sense of addiction to find out what other people are up to.
Yeah.
Do you find that?
Oh my, the number of screenshots I have saved in my phone of projects that I want to do one day because someone online has done it. It's unbelievable.
It is. What's the thing you really want to do? If you could just do it right now, what's that one thing?
So honestly, you know, the like massive yarn, like just the really thick yarn that costs $1 million and it's
you're one of those crocheters that if it's more than $5, it's $1 million.
I'm one of those nonprofit employees.
Oh my God. Okay, so you want to do something with thick yarn. What are you gonna do?
Well, I love coziness. So hoodies, blankets. I did invest in like blanket yarn last year and did the study of snow. It's here. I sit with it all of the time.
Oh, let's see the study of snow. Here we go.
Is this backwards? No, this is the right way.
Fun. Yeah. You know, I like simple repeats like that, Sarah.
Yeah, you know, I've really loved the stitch samplers. The snow made the color change on my camera, but
there you are. You're coming back.
I love the stitch samplers, but they would just, the big yarn works up so fast and it's just so cozy. And I just sit on my couch with it every night and that's all I need.
So you sound like a cottage core crocheter. Have you heard of that before?
No.
Cottage core. I learned this term during COVID because I got an interview with this magazine for like really old people. And they said basically cottage core is when you decide to decorate in your own way and you say, screw the designers, that you have to have your teapot here and whatever for your background. You're making your space your own. So you sound like that kind of person.
Yeah, I'd say that's true. It's like, you know, blankets, bar cart, fun, colorful lamps.
Yeah, like life is short, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk about that item. People are talking about your sweater online. Let's talk about that.
Yes, this is my first ever piece of clothing that I crocheted probably 12 years ago. It's a hoodie. The top ended up being a little pointy, so I just tuck it in. I'm sure I was guided by a pattern, but there's no way the pattern had a pointy hood, so I must not have followed it perfectly.
Well, you could always put like a tassel on the back of that to make it look intentional, so it does actually come down.
That is a great idea.
12 years later, sweetie.
Right now, I just tuck it in and it works great.
What was your, like crocheting clothing is not something that I enjoy doing. Is that something that you enjoy doing or you just decided to do it?
I decided to do it. I own a million hoodies in life. And I was like, why don't I crochet one? So I did. I have since crocheted some stuff, mostly gifts for most of what I do is gifts for other people. So I made a different hoodie years later that looked much better. And then I did make myself a beach cover up.
Yes.
Some like smaller yarn. That I wear at the beach all the time. Well, whenever I'm at the beach, I wear it.
There's a beach in Philadelphia?
Jersey.
Oh, okay. That makes more sense. So it's right on the ocean itself.
Yeah.
Okay. So my biggest thing with the clothing, I don't want to put a friggin' tape measure around my stomach or I was going to say the T word, around my man boobs. I just don't want to know the reality of what I'm measuring.
That's fair.
Yeah.
I just go for the biggest. I'm a baggy clothes girl, so I'm just like, let me just make a nice big size, and it'll be comfortable no matter how big it is.
Yeah. Is it hot?
Well, right now I'm incredibly hot because I have a beet in the oven, and I'm wearing a hoodie. So
you have a what in the oven?
A beet. I'm roasting a beet. A very large golden beet. BEET.
Like food.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, I thought you might have been saying that there's an oven going on downstairs. That's what I.
No. This one, actual oven. Yeah.
So one of the things that I learned early on, actually, I wouldn't say it too early on, but there's some things that you should crochet clothing with, and some things that you would not. Like I see Red Heart acrylic kind of stuff for like a hat, and I'm like, oh my God, you would cook in the summer with a acrylic hat versus cotton.
Right.
Have you learned stuff like that over the time, like what to crochet and not to?
So I've learned that I'm allergic to alpaca wool.
Really?
Yeah, I get really itchy when I work with it.
Okay.
I made my grandfather a hat once, and that was how I learned. And people keep gifting it to me, and I keep being like, "Thank you. I can never touch this."
So is it cheap? Is it cheap alpaca or is it good alpaca?
I think it's good.
Yeah.
It's like gifts from different countries. Like when people bring me gifts, they bring me either frog items or yarn.
So how do we get those people to be part of our lives so that us at home can actually be able to get gifted yarn like that? Because that's crazy.
Great question. Yeah.
Who do we have to work around here to get some more?
I'll just any alpaca I get, I'll send your way. But I would say I mostly work with acrylic, mainly because a lot of what I'm making is going to, like, all my friends have kids. So anything that I'm making has to be like easily washable. They have to not have to think about what it needs to be washed. So I mostly am using acrylic at this point.
Me too. And you know what? It's affordable for most people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some people have. The unfortunate thing with acrylic is that it is a petroleum-based product, so it is regulated by the fuel price. Mm-hmm. And so you got the fuel that's worked into the actual making of the product, and then you got the fuel to actually ship the product, like how many stops before you even see it. So it's very reliant on the fuel costs. So we've seen a big increase in acrylic because of that, but you know, it's still cheaper to make than it is to, you know, raise an animal and feed it and shave it.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, that actually sounds kind of hot.
I have used some cotton for like kitchen products. And I've used some wool for like things that need to be extra warm. But
yeah. So I like cotton for certain things, but you know, when you're working with the cotton, it feels very like this is one of Karen's little fidgets where there's a ball inside, and I get to move my ball around. There should be two in there, and it should be blue. But they say that in time it actually gets softer, but I haven't played with it enough to get it to go soft unless you wash it, right?
Yeah, I mean, right.
So,
I'll just say there's a question about if the swim cover up, what it's made out of, with plus size. And I'll just say plus size patterns are really hard to come across. Also, like the extra large isn't always large enough. But I'm almost positive that I made it out of acrylic also, just to comment.
Wow. Okay. Well, is it airy? Like, can the air just get through there to
airy.
dry up those? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I used sport weight and lots of holes. Mm-hmm. It's not like great for being dry. It looks really nice, and then you take it off and get in the water.
Yeah. Actually, I think Yarn Inspirations has just come out with a new cover up. I was actually looking at it, but I don't recall the name of it, so I'll have to think about that, because those are really quick patterns to make. And the nice thing about it, it's not necessarily, unless you really want to show off your figure, you know, it doesn't have to be form-fitting to your skin. It's just a very easy wearable, you know, kind of hiding those goodies that you may have, Sarah, you know,
or letting them show when they should, you know.
Okay, so me as a gay guy, if you walk in front of me, I'm like, put those away, honey. Here, let me just hook you up something real quick.
Oh, well, it's all the curves, not just that.
Yeah. Okay, so where do we go from here? So you have some great show and tell. Karen arranged with you to get some photographs, which I have previewed already, to get them here in the program. So I'm going to bring up one now, and you're going to just talk to me about it, and let's see, what the hell is that?
Okay, that is my boyfriend, the model. So about a little over 6 months ago, about a year ago, I made a egg gathering chicken apron, which is not what you're looking at. It's a pattern by I got it on Etsy, Thompson Farms, on other social medias. She's Country Mama Musings, and it has 12 little eggs, 12 little egg pockets, and each of the pockets is a chicken. Okay. And so it's for gathering eggs. So I started making these. I made them for an influencer online from Appalachia and ended up making 1 million of them. But then a friend said to me, I don't have chickens, but I really love chickens. Can you make me just a normal kitchen apron? And so this was the best picture I could get of the chicken was my own creation there. Just me trying to make it look like a chicken and also serve functionally.
Yeah, well, I guess that's one way to hide his cock. I
normally try to crop him out when I share this picture, but there we are.
Now, what is that thing? What is that big long thing coming out of his apron? What is that? I have not seen. What is that?
Pin. That's a rolling
pin.
What?
It doesn't have handles in it. Oh, that a new style?
It's tapered, so you can change the pressure on different parts. If you're rolling something bigger, it's a lot easier, like big pieces of dough.
Wow. So that's actually pretty fun. So
yeah.
So you're pretty much you like to just experiment and just go your own way if there's not something that exists.
Yeah, I do. I'm not. I think of I do a lot of creative things, but I don't know that I call myself creative. I do follow a ton of patterns. Like the 2 things I'm working on right now are both patterns, but I definitely play also.
Yeah, but just because, so the way I see it, Sarah, is that even if you're following a pattern, you're kind of picking up the skill level of why did the designer decide to do this? And it's like, and you keep that knowledge in your head. And I think every time you finish a pattern, you're getting smarter and smarter with the stitch work, right?
Oh, yeah. If you look at the first stuffed animal I ever made to the one I made a few months ago, it's like a world of difference.
Oh, sweetie. Me and amigurumi just do not belong in the same sentence. I made this mermaid. I called her Wanda Puckoff because she was one of my first, and I freeformed the mermaid. I did the bottom half of her beautifully, and I gave her the ugliest face with green eyes. She looked like she was a sewer rat in a nuclear dump, and her mouth looked like a party girl. And I literally had to climb up this pole because I put it onto this pole in the show. And somebody looked at it and says, that looks really suggestive. So I had to get up there and sew her mouth shut.
No. Oh, well.
But Daniel says I know how to ruin stuff just perfectly.
Don't we all?
Don't we all? So speaking of that, so you had another project here. Let me just add this to the stage. So this is definitely not your first item then.
No, this is actually the one I was just the most recent one. There was no pattern for this. Someone reached out and said, my 1-year-old is obsessed with ladybugs. Can you make a ladybug pretty much the size? I mean, that's like, I don't know. I'm American, so I think 1.5 feet.
That's 1.5 feet?
It's pretty big, yeah.
Sweetie, now you're talking. I might be a size queen. That's fabulous.
Yeah, so it was pretty fun to make. I had to, I redid lots of parts of it as I was going because she wanted it big. She wanted it to like be the size almost of her 1-year-old. So
now, what kind of yarn is that? Like to get it that big?
It's just acrylic. It's just worsted weight.
That's huge. Did you double strand it?
Parts of it I double stranded, not the head and not the dots. The red I did, and also I used a fairly big hook, and then I just stuffed it pretty tight.
Yeah. We won't go there, Sarah, because I'm gonna jump off in that train wreck.
I do have one of the early animals I made here with me.
Let me take us both to the stage. Oh, look at that.
Little duck.
Oh, okay. So what was your feeling once you got this one done? Were you proud of yourself at the time, but you realized you could do better?
Yeah, I mean, this one, like, I just used scrap yarn, so like the orange is a totally different weight than the rest of it.
Yeah.
I thought it was the cutest little thing, and then I have to say, when Karen had me go, I went through all of my crochet pictures from like, I don't know, 2 decades, and it was like, this is embarrassing.
Yeah, but we got to start somewhere, right? Okay, it's a lot better than my mermaid, let me tell you. But I think honestly, Daniel says that I suck at amigurumi, and I totally do. But I think it's just a matter of getting used to it. Like, because some of the stuff there is mine. Some stuff I just buy at a craft show. Honestly, they sell the amigurumi so cheap at these craft shows. Like
I know.
those seagulls are like $20 Canadian, which is what 50 cents American.
Yeah.
So as like I will take 3, and they're feeling so proud because I know just the yarn for the Bernat blanket on that is definitely
right.
You're getting your money's worth, and especially the stuffing. One of the things that I've learned in the stuffing world is to buy a pillow at like Walmart because they're super cheap and rip that stuffing out and toss the cover.
I also, all of my yarn scraps, I save as like anything I'm trimming ends, I save as stuffing also.
Really? So,
not that it's that bulky, but it's something,
It's just filler, right? Like, especially like little ears or just like little noses, like those kind of trimmings are a good job, like our way of really making a difference. So what did you start with then when you started to crochet for the first time?
Yeah, so I was 5 and my bubby taught me how to crochet, my grandmother.
Bubby?
Bubby, Yiddish.
That's cute.
So I was making uneven scarves. It was, it was like she was crocheting beautiful, or I don't know. She crocheted me one thing, but she like taught me how to crochet as a 5-year-old. But it also means that the way I hold my yarn is the way I held my yarn as a 5-year-old, and it's very painful. So I can't crochet for that long, even now, like a few hours and my finger cramps up. So
can you demonstrate on how you're holding your yarn? Let's all just take let's all give her a critique, and we'll bring her to full camera here. So I'm going to remove myself.
Okay, so I have tried holding it in so many different ways, but essentially I hold it like this, like I'm literally gripping the yarn with my finger here. It's like folded in here, and it's so uncomfortable. Like, I mean, I'm used to it. I've been doing it for, 30 years, but it does cramp after a little while. It's just that tight little hold.
Do you worry that you're going to injure yourself? But just like, how old are you now?
34. So
you think about a few more years of that, because I have to tell you, as I'm getting older, and especially Karen is a wreck now, hopefully she's offline, but it's so funny. You just hit a certain age, then things start to hurt, and then they just don't heal. Do you think that you should think about changing your direction before you injure yourself further?
So the thing, I have tried, what I've thought about trying, and I'm curious if have you ever used one of those rings?
I have, crap. Just keep talking, Sarah. Just gotta get a hold of Daniel for a second.
Yeah, no, I tried like the straight, I tried the double wrap, I tried just all these different things. And when I teach people how to crochet, I'm teaching them the right way, but I just still hold it the only way a 5-year-old could grip it. So I have thought about the rings as an option, because even when I try it the other way, because I've been doing it for so long this way, it's just so natural to me. I go so much faster. But
you know what you could try. You know what you could try. So you have not tried a ring. You're asking me about the ring.
Correct.
What I would consider doing: get a paper clip and make it into a ring, and just put it around your finger and try it that way before you even think about doing it. Because if you're not going to be able to adjust to that, then it's going to be, it's a cheaper alternative, because I'm cheap, right? Yeah. So that's because I just worried, like, I can't even pull my finger in that time. Sweetie, you're talented.
I was a 5-year-old. 5-year-olds are very talented.
No, I just recently changed the way that I'm wrapping the yarn in my yarn feeding hand. So I've been working on this little pirate for the crochet cruises, and I've been using a 2.5 millimeter size nothing crochet hook, and I need to get the tension, so I've got it double wrapped around my finger, which I know I don't normally do it, and I'm like, and so now I find myself trying to double wrap the thick stuff, but now I'm gonna choke my finger off.
Right. Well, that's what I found, is like the double wrapping it hurt.
I
don't know, but I like the paper clip idea.
Yeah, well, it's a cheap alternative to see if it's actually going to work because I worried that the rings, like they're on your hand, they're going to rotate, and
Right.
then it doesn't become convenient, right? And then some people have like these knuckles that are like gorillas, and they could barely get a ring on over top of their knuckle.
Right.
So I don't wear rings generally speaking because when I was married, I could barely put on my ring because it was like it's just unnatural to have that sense of confining. So I do wonder about those kind of things. So one of the things that I had to do when I joined Red Heart is that I got wrapped on the knuckles on the way that I was crocheting that I had to correct myself. And so it literally took me about a week to change my positioning so that I could match it. They said the way that you're teaching people is not going to match how the books are done. So therefore you're teaching people incorrectly. So when they go to a book, they're not going to be able to do it. And honestly, it took about a week, but then I crochet so much faster.
Interesting.
So
Yeah.
I don't know. So you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah.
So so let's take a look at another. I'm curious about this one here. So we're going to add another project to the stage today. And I don't know exactly what this is. Is it a game console?
It is. So like I said, most of what I make is gifts, and this was a wedding gift for two of my friends, Eric and Michael. They're both really into gaming, but like the old Nintendo. And so I knew nothing about that. So I had to do a lot of research.
The old Nintendo. Oh my God, I'm showing my age.
Yeah. So, well, I just like never played video games in my life. And so I just had no idea what they were talking about, but I did some research, and essentially instead of A and B, it said A and M for their initials, and then date instead of like, it said something there. So, and I decided to do it, like out of out of squares, instead of some other more intricate things that I have done to personalize a blanket. So that blanket is about a twin bed size.
How many squares is that, Sarah?
Oh gosh, I don't even know. I couldn't tell you.
Now, would you ever do another one of that? Or you say, you know what, I've done my squares for a lifetime?
No, I don't hate the squares. One of the things I'm currently working on is a baby blanket made out of tiny little puffs. It is annoying to put them together, but it just looks so nice. So it's like worth it to give a gift that takes a lot of effort in my mind. Like I crochet for the mental health, for the having something to do with my hands. And I like to make people gifts like that. So,
one of my favorite parts of that, Sarah, is that I like how you consider the person that you gifted it to versus your own personal need, in the sense where I sometimes think people give gifts because, oh, it's convenient and it's quick and it will just be checking off the list. But I love how you went that extra step and put that time in for that gift. Like, that's a one of a kind. That's a keeper.
So I have only ever made 5 things for myself. One of them I am wearing, and the other 4 are blankets that most of them have been made since 2020, and they're your pattern. They're crochet crowd patterns. So it's everything has always just been about like, what does someone want? Like, what is someone's personality? I had friends getting married and their last name was Bird. And so I found this like lace bird pattern, and then I had no idea what filet crochet was at the time. And so I just bought worsted weight yarn and made it into it's a king size blanket in the end. Cause I was just like, wow, this is the pattern I'm using, and I'm going to crochet it the way I can figure out how to crochet it.
Now, one of the things that annoy me about filet crochet, love the look, easy to do. And I get these people saying, I need you to go line by line with the damn filet crochet. And I was like, oh my God, I'd rather have spastic diarrhea for a week than to sit there and teach line by line of filet crochet. If I can just teach you to open your mind and just read those diagrams, because they're not hard to do, right?
Right. Well, I also think some of it is like, if you're not familiar with it, maybe it's hard to find where that double is,
Mm-hmm. I don't know. So let's give Sarah a little bit of love today. Hit that love button, hit that like button. I know that's my social media side of myself. right now I'm currently working on upgrading our pillows patterns. So we have A to Z and 0 to 9. And I actually hit it in the YouTube membership level because I got tired of people just complaining that they don't want to learn how to read the damn diagram, but they want to do the thing. So I am not going through 35 pillows in order to teach that, because I will literally, after probably D, I will go homicidal. I am sure I will. And it's like, if you could just, I'm of the belief with crochet, like I can teach you to fish, but it's up to you to actually eat the fish and actually go for the fish and fish for yourself, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that seems fundamental to me. But but then I don't want to be too dismissive on a brand new crocheter either. But there's a time when a pattern needs to be taught all the way, and then there's a time to say, hey, let's just kick this off and let's get going, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think also, like, that's where I found the Crochet Crowd groups so helpful, because when you are stuck, there's someone there that can help explain it or send a picture. And I'm a pattern reader. I'm I can read a diagram, but that's not how my brain works. I'm like, let me read the words. But there have definitely been times, like in some of these patterns, the Inspired By series, that I was just like, I have no idea what this means. Like, I can't picture it. And so I would go watch the video, and I'd watch it 4 times, watch you do the same stitch. And then I'd be like, oh, that's the loop I'm pulling up. And then once it clicks, it clicks. So I feel like within the community, there is the ability to figure that out.
I know. I ran into this nut job on, Sara, oh my God, secret. I ran into this nut job on YouTube today. Michael never answers comments. It's like, please.
You're the most active.
Oh my God, I was
social media celeb.
Oh my God. It's like, how many thousands of updates we get, like within a short time frame. It's like, there's no possible way that a human can do it. And the answer for this person was, well, then you need to hire people. Well, you know what, shit. You're pretty much doing things for free, so you can only do what you can do. But that's why there is the social community you're talking about, because there's going to be somebody that knows something that wants to help, right?
Yeah. I also I've met, once I was up at what's that Lake Ontario in New York. In 2020 or no, well, the New York side of it. In 2020, I think, or 2021. And I was crocheting on the beach of the lake. And some woman came up to me who lived in that neighborhood. And she was like, let's crochet together. And I told her about the Crochet Crowd, and now she's in it. And like, there's also something cool about like when real life community becomes online and vice versa. And it's, it's cool.
Yeah, you know what? It's kind of neat. People say that they're in the yarn out, and they said there's this weird guy online, and it's Mikey. I follow Mikey, and then it becomes a whole Mikey conversation. And I'm sure they're making up shit that I don't remember I said. People say, I remember the time, and they quote my life back to me. I'm like, I don't remember it that way, but maybe I was exaggerating. So that would be Karen's 90% of 10% truth and 90% storytelling. But it is amazing how yarn really does a great job of bringing us together to have a commonality.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So do you ever just like go to the craft store and just hang out to see if you can find a new friend?
I'm a weird person that makes friends literally anywhere I go. So I don't have to go to the craft store to find a craft friend. It's a problem.
Yeah. Oh my God. So it's like, if I just wander around this place a little bit longer, somebody will show up, and then I'm like, it was kind of funny. I was at Michael's last weekend, and one person I stopped to ask, because I was making this little tea shop, and it's like, I just didn't know what to do with this sign. And she's in a section where I am, and I said, you don't happen to have an idea? And she knew exactly who I was. I love your videos, and it was totally accidental. And so I got chatting with her. She told me to use stencils, which I'm not going to use stencils because me with paint is a disaster. But then I went to the other aisle over there, and she goes, Mikey, I wanted to talk to you. And I'm like, oh my God, I just want to freaking shop. But it's amazing how the craft store can be really that connection spot, right?
Yeah. Oh, I asked. Yeah. I mean, anytime I'm looking for yarn, I always ask someone's opinion. I would say like choosing colors is not my strong suit, but I also need to stop taking people's advice because I hate what they come up with. But I always ask for advice in the yarn aisle anyway. Can I share an example about that actually?
Yes. Do you have one?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I got to get a hold of Daniel again.
Yeah. Go
ahead, keep talking.
Yeah. I don't remember which pattern this was, but it was from last year, I think, one of yours.
Hold up. I can tell by the centers.
Hang on.
Oh, the study of determination, that friggin' piece of work.
So I loved making this. I loved the pattern. I loved making it. And
really?
I was so sure that I wanted to make like beach ball, beach summer vibes. And I had in my mind like bright colors. And all the combinations I found, my friends and family were like, no, that doesn't quite look good. That pink doesn't work with that orange. And they ended up talking me into these colors, which are more like beach sunset. This is like beach sunset, I think, maybe more. We have like the sand here, and then the greenery, the water, and then like the purple and yellow and blue. I don't know. It feels beachy, but in a really different way. I hate this blanket. Like, I'm not into it. I did also afterwards go back to the store and get the colors I wanted, and I'm obsessed with that blanket. And a friend, yes, that one. I love it. That was what I was going for. But so that's what happens to me in the yarn aisle. I'm like I know the color scheme I want, and then I can't figure out how to do it because it's like whatever there is there. So then I ask someone in the aisle, and they normally don't want to give me their opinion in a strong way because I think they're worried about the same thing I'm worried about. And then I ask my family who doesn't crochet, and then I end up with this.
You know, it's kind of funny. I did the first study of determination, and I did not like it. And I was like, oh my God, this is sinful. And I didn't love it. And then I posted it online, and people were like, I don't like the color. So I ended up having to crochet a second sample. And I felt, I'd said to Yarn Inspirations, I'm going to have to spend a week offline and get another sample done because I'm very disappointed that the audience did not like the color choices. And so I crocheted a second sample, and you know what colors that people ended up liking? The original color. I wasted my time doing it second time. So it's one of those times I just got to shut the comments down and just trust my gut.
Right. Well, that's the thing is I don't feel like I can trust my gut, but now I don't feel like I can trust anyone around me either. So.
Yeah. Now my friend Kelly, I think, is here online. She is my my junk food friend that we sit beside at one stitch night. If you've ever been to our stitch nights, Kelly, oh my God, I confirm my homosexuality every Wednesday night when I'm there. Oh my God. We have so much fun, but we can never videotape. But Kelly was there during the study of determination. I was ready to punch the lights out of this thing. It's just like, oh.
Well, what you ended up with is like, I love it so much. I actually made 3 of them.
3?
Yeah.
So you're obviously gifting this stuff then.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's all gifting. One of them I might have sold actually, but yeah.
And how much does somebody sell something like this for? Like, cause I'm going to have to take a cut of that.
You really should. Can you like,
so,
it was a friend who wanted it, and it was like, here, but it was that
Sherry,
one I was like, I have to make up for this I invested in nice Lion brand.
I actually like that one. I actually like it.
I don't think it's bad. It's just like not me and nobody.
It's
and I'm trying to sell it and nobody wants it. So it's just like, whatever, you know.
Well, up the price to like $500 to make it special. The blanket, what we're talking about, Sherry, is called the study of determination because it was my pain in the ass. And I'm like, I am determined to get this fucker done. It was like, oh my God. Because I almost quit on that thing several times.
It's complicated. It's really complicated. And you can tell when you're doing it that it was a hard pattern to put together.
Yeah, it was the counting. It was the counting that got on my nerves. And then I invented a stitch that I thought I invented, which I called it the bridge or something. And then I end up finding it in the damn book like 6 months later. I'm like, oh my God, it didn't. But here's the thing with crochet. If you do it wrong and don't know you're doing it wrong, then it's technically right.
Totally.
Catherine wheel stitch, I did wrong for 10 years before I realized that the same pattern I was looking at for 10 years actually had a chain after you do the wheel, so I never did the chain after the wheel. So it tucked into each other, making it look like a rolling wave.
Oh, nice.
So I didn't think it didn't look like the photo when I did it, but I was like, God, I actually like this thing, but I didn't realize that I was doing it wrong all that time because it felt right.
I was doing front loop crochet for years because I thought that was how you crocheted. And then I was like, I'm just tired of this line. And then someone was like, why do you have a line? So my first hat I ever made is just like, it has a ring, or every row has a ring because it was just front or back or something loop.
Now it's kind of interesting, like the front loop actually is decent, but I always question whether it's as strong, only grabbing one strand instead of two.
No way. It feels so weak. And there's some places I do it intentionally, and like sometimes on a strap if I want to do ribbing, and then I'm just like, I can't because it's just going to be way too weak.
Yeah, so there's a time to use it and a time not to. I try not using it in the patterns because, so what's one stitch? If you know me so well, what's one stitch I hate putting into one of the study series?
Oh, I don't know.
Starts with H.
I don't know how to pronounce that one. If it's the thing I'm thinking of, it's a long word. Hustle, tooth. Isn't that a thing?
Oh, the houndstooth.
Houndstooth.
The houndstooth. We'll go with hustle. That sounds good to me. I hate working with half double crochet so much.
Oh.
It is my most hate. You know what? I always lose my count on half double crochet. I miss it in the corners, and I miss it coming out of a corner, and then my stitches just go friggin' nuts. And so half double crochet, you can either go before the stitch or after. And I find when I'm doing it is that I feel like it's getting a weird twist. So I try to leave it out of that study series because I know it screws me up. And then I just don't want a billion emails saying, Michael, my counts are screwed up. I'm like, it's the damn stitch. Yeah. So who here on this chat loves a half double crochet? Because I really don't like it. And I feel like I can't do, when I half double crochet, it's never a solid movement. I pull through the two and then continue. It's like a stopped motion. I can't just whip it through.
If I'm doing like a half double and then I have to do like these little, this is the beginning of the little chicken pockets, but the middle ring is half double and then the rest is double. And I like it. It never ends well. I don't hate it the way you hate it, but it's a challenge.
And the puff stitch needs to be wipe the face off the earth. Honestly, the puff stitch, when it snags on that son of a bitch, I just like literally just go nuts. Actually, it's tonight. I think I'm going homicidal tonight. I'm going nuts. I think you're dragging this out in me.
I must be a bad influence. Yeah,
I'm loving it. You would totally fit in with our stitch group for sure. So if there's a stitch that you could say is done, what stitch would it be?
Honestly, I don't love a popcorn. And single crochet. I know it's useful. I know you need it sometimes, but I just don't like it.
It's slow. It's slow. I did a whole baby blanket actually in the last 4 days of single crochet, which I thought I was kind of crazy, but the red heart bitty stripes just made it worth it. Because my ADHD kicks in that I am not going to get through a whole blanket because I was stupid as a teenager. I did my first 2 blankets and then I thought I'm going to do a Coca-Cola color single crochet double bedspread. And I'm like, it never saw the light of day. It's just because my boredom just kicks in so hard. It's like, there's no way that I'm going to sit there and do that.
Yeah, when I had no idea what I was doing and like making patterns, my brother was getting married when I was in college and I made what ended up being a larger than California king-sized blanket that was all black with a Z in the middle. And I was just crocheting, double crocheting all black it felt like for years. It was like, but I didn't know how to shrink it down. I only knew one way of like making a grid that made sense. The angles had to be right to make the Z. So I went through like a whole pad of graph paper trying to figure it out. But yeah, I was so bored.
So speaking of boredom, we're going to add something else to the stage that you created.
Oh yeah.
And this doesn't look like that's boredom.
There. No, this was that Lovebirds blanket. So that's it ended up king sized. It was a purchased lace pattern on Etsy from, I don't know, 12 years ago. I don't remember who it was. And I just made it into this, like, that was all double crochet. You can see my collie sitting next to it, so you can get the sense for the size.
I was gonna ask about the dog. What's the dog's name?
Raina. She passed away a year ago. But she was she's a big fluffy dog, so if that gives any sense for how huge this blanket is. And their last name was Bird, so I was like, I have to do this. She was my first friend, so it was like an investment for her wedding. I was like, I'm gonna do this, and I just had to keep buying yarn because it was so much bigger than I expected it to be.
So did you make any mistakes where you really had to seriously frog this thing?
Yeah, I would say the most I frogged was like 5 or 6 rows.
That's a pain.
But when it wasn't part of the birds, I just left it be. Like if it was just part of that little flowery part. But if it was on the bird in a way that I felt like you weren't going to be able to tell that you were looking at a wing, I would frog it. You can see like a couple places where it's messed up, like at the tail on the bottom left, you can see it's like sticking out. But I was like, you can still tell what this is. I'm going to leave that.
Yeah, honestly, if you hadn't said anything, it wouldn't have mattered to me.
Right.
Like I wouldn't have called attention to that. Is this, did you have to do bobble work for this, or did you carry the yarn through?
I carried the yarn up and down. So I didn't carry it through the whole thing, but I would go up a row.
You did bobbles, like, and just carried it up.
Yeah.
So you went straight. Okay. So you did
well,
bobbles.
I guess now I'm trying to think about it, but it's double-sided. It looks good. So I don't know what I did actually.
It probably is. It sounds like you used different balls in order to achieve it. So you didn't carry the color straight through.
I didn't. No, because I did that on a different blanket that I ended up totally destroying. Like I took it out because it was just too frustrating and it didn't look good. But this, I didn't do that. I think what I must have done. Wow, honestly, I'll have to, next time I'm up in Ithaca, I'll have to look at it and try to figure out what I did. I don't even remember, but it wasn't that. It wasn't the different balls. I remember clearly that I didn't do that because I might have just like taken this, kept cutting it and reattaching. I don't know. I was still early in my crochet journey. That was the hardest project I've ever made.
And that for me, I think would be a one-time project, and then I'm like, okay, I've done it, moving on.
Well, that's
because some of these women online, well, I'm going to say women for the most part, but and men and they, like they do the most amazing shit, and they just keep doing it, like stuff like that. I'm like, where do you find the patience for that?
Yeah, well, that's why now it's like I have to say, every gift I made was something like that, not that intense, but something like that. And now that I'm like doing like, these kinds of patterns, I can make this for someone and it's beautiful. And, they'll say, oh, this will be in my family for generation, whatever it is, that it's like, great, this is just as effective and takes me like a third of the time and way less emotional energy. I can just have fun doing it and learning new stitches. Not that I never do the personalized stuff anymore, but I mean, that was intense.
Somebody was messaging me last night over one of Jeannie's patterns where they wanted to understand the meaning of her name. And so one of the things is that I like to buy artwork, and I like to support other artists. And just because the other artist sees something that they decided to put into something, it doesn't mean that that's what I'm going to make it mean. So one thing that I love to do is come up with the pattern, but you apply your own sense of coloring, your own meaning to it, your own thought process to be part of that, so that it does become personal in that manner, right?
Yeah. And that's
And
like,
one of my
no, go ahead.
go ahead. No, that's
Well,
because
so like this one, which again, I don't remember the name of this one. I'll show you the middle. It's backwards.
is that one of mine?
It's one of yours. Yeah. I
Oh,
don't know.
that's Jeannie. That's Jeannie's pattern. That's
Oh,
the
it's
study.
Jeannie's.
That's inspired by Grace.
Oh, yes. So that one was another one where I tried to pick my own colors and I hated the result. And that one I spent months watching everyone else's online. It was like, I knew I liked the pattern. I watched how people like didn't follow the same color order that she put in there and switched things up this way and that way. And I ended up with like my little ombre green. Like I wanted green, like green is my color. I want, and so it was one of those things where it's like, it's this pattern that everyone is making, but every person's was like so unique and so beautiful. And it like, even though everyone's doing the same pattern, I mean, you get the community of that, but the result is something unique even if you're following the same colors.
One of the things that I struggle with as a designer is that I got to stay within a price point of a design. So I would love to throw 10 different colors at this stuff, but then it means you're buying 10 different balls, which are hard to do. And then some of the yarn I may have gets discontinued so pretty damn fast. So I have to stay within a price point. But then I see people finish some of my stuff. I'm like, God, if I had that freedom, it would have been amazing, right?
Do you, is most of what you do for patterns, or would you say that you also do then go and make something with the 10 different colors, or?
That's a hard question, Sarah. I wasn't expecting to volley back like that. It's very rare for me to do that. I actually did one blanket that got rejected by Yarnspirations, and it was the boho Christmas ornament blanket, because I think I had 10 colors, but I used half balls of Karen 1 pound, and they said there's no way that people are going to buy 10 balls and then have a half ball waste that's left over. But really, that was more for me in the end. But there's a lot of people, like, do you have a big collection of yarn?
I have a collection of yarn, but I would not call it big. I live in a small apartment, so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have to tell you though, if I wasn't who I am, I would not have as much yarn as I have, like, because I think it's kind of sickening, to be honest with you.
Everything I have is less. I won't purchase anything unless it's for a specific project.
Well, that's discipline. So maybe you can't come to my stitching group after all, because that's discipline. Because these girls leave and midway through, I'm just going to go look around the store, and by the way, there's a coupon. And so so I would love to crochet more stuff for myself, but then I feel like it's a kind of a waste of my time. If my hands are got to move, there's got to be a purpose for that. And unfortunately, so my miniatures that I've gotten myself into, that you see behind me, is something for me, and it's not something that I want to teach online, because I have the creative freedom to do whatever the hell I want, and then I have people say, well, you could have done this, and I could have, but I'm not teaching it, so I don't want to hear it, unless they have a great idea that I never considered, of course. But it's kind of a fickle business to be in, really.
Well, I admire that. I mean, like, both that you keep something for yourself, but also that you do it professionally. I had an Etsy page for like 3 weeks, and then I was like, "Ooh, I don't want to feel like this is work. I want to keep feeling like it's fun." And I still crochet all of the time, but it's for me and for the people I know, as opposed to just like all of the internet things. So I admire both that you keep some of it private and that you do it professionally for us.
I don't want to ever, like, I give a lot to charity here, like a lot. And it's like, I feel good when the projects like these study series go to charity at the end, because the way that I see it is that Yarnspirations gave me the yarn to play with, and it's up to me to pay it forward. And I don't want to be a host that sells the finished product when the yarn has been given to me, and then I get monetization, or we're doing a little bit of paid patterns now, but I already feel like I'm being compensated for it, that I don't need to charge for something like that. And that's not something I want to get, because somebody's going to lowball the price and I'm going to be really upset.
Totally.
Yeah. So I find myself, I go to the craft shows and I can hear people negotiating prices, and I'm like, you need to get the F away from this table. You don't deserve even to look at this shit.
Yeah. I also, like, something that's hard for me is when I see a designer or a maker who's lowballing themselves. And it's like, people will pay, not everyone will pay for it, but people will pay for it. And like, this took you so many hours.
But you appreciate that as a person to do that. But there, I think my friend Bruce is here online. They were talking about, there was a table down the street from their table, and they were lowballing, I think, dish rags or whatever, versus somebody that is actually trying to make make a living. But the people that were lowballing weren't there to make any money. They're just there passing time. So in a craft show, you got a certain vendor that is needing the money because that's what they're trying to do to get extra funds in their pocket, versus another creator that's just wasting time and just wants just to get a few dollars out of it.
Right. Yeah.
But I have a friend that does a craft show in the States, and she does juried shows. This woman makes a killing on these shows. But she says, you got to keep making the same pattern over and over and over. I would go ape shit.
Yeah. No, when these chicken aprons, I made 50 of them, and I was so done with chickens.
You made
the video of the original one went viral, like 3 million views, and I was like, oh no. And I made them. I made 1 million of them, and now it's like I never want to look at a chicken again. I had 2 months without any requests, and I just got one, which is why I have this. But it's like, that's so many chickens. You know what though, Sarah? Based on what I'm hearing in the US, if you put a dozen eggs in that apron, you can probably get $100 for it. That's true.
It comes with the eggs. This is a deal.
Well, yeah.
So I'm a one and done kind of girl. I'm like, I'm done, get off me. Let's go watch TV. I'm that kind of crocheter. I don't want to ever do things twice. And the only reason why I do the blankets twice is that I design it the first time, and then I do it the second time to test it. And then I have to do it a third time, which is the photography of Yarn Inspirations. They have a home crocheting team that works with them. But I want to be sure when I look at that photo on Yarn Inspirations that it literally was something that came from my hands. Because there's a sense of pride with that, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So what's your... let's take a look at another project while we got you. So is that one of your chicken aprons? That is, yep. That's the pattern by Thompson Farms. Yeah. Now is the body worked into the square itself?
I mean, they're made separately, and then you connect them instead of sewing together the squares. It's like a round of chains that connects the chicken to the square and the squares to each other. Mm-hmm. So you make, and they're all facing the same direction, so they're all going to parade. They're all leaning one way. They are, yeah. Mm-hmm. It's interesting because it's like I did not know there was a world about chickens. Like this is like a world I did not know existed, and my friends think it's hilarious that I'm spending so much time making chickens. Now, who here in the audience knew about this chicken thing? Because I didn't know that. I've been making monsters. Maybe I should be making some chicken. Well, my friend's daughter, 13-year-old daughter, started to crochet, and the only thing she makes is stuffed chickens out of blanket yarn. They're calling that blanket grooming. Yarn Inspirations is actually behind the scenes. That's cute. A whole, all of these things behind me, are all that kind of concept of just blanket grooming, just use, because it goes so fast. Yeah. No,
know.
and they're so cute. Like she was gonna help
Mhm.
me. I asked her if she wanted to like make a little job out of it and make some chickens for this. And she was like, no, I like my chickens. It's like
Well,
this is just, the chicken world is just so new to me. Who knew?
I'm just writing that down because so I don't forget, because I'm gonna have to go look at your inspirations to see if they have any chicken ideas, because I just didn't know that was a thing. Because maybe, we go through a lot of eggs in this house. I think it's $10 like Canadian, $7 US for a flat of 30 eggs, because the dogs had their eggs twice a day, and then Daniel's
Your
raising quail
dogs
right
get
now.
eggs twice a day. You are nice to your dogs. That
The
is very
dogs
kind.
eat better than we do, honestly. The food is costing. Daniel said when he got them that they wouldn't be expensive, and these dogs are expensive as fuck. Like just I spend $300 in a pop for dog treats at the farmer's market.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
the vendor loves me.
I'm sure.
But these dogs that we had them, we lost one of the vendors at the pet store or at the farmer's market, and so we had to put them on pet store food. These dogs went completely lethargic and depressed, and it's like, what is going on? And then we found another person that does the raw food because they're on a raw food diet, and it was like night and day, like instantly. It's
Wow.
like and I don't want a medical bill if I'm gonna feed them shit, because you're gonna pay the cost of it in the medical down the road.
Yeah, no, it's
So
true. It's true.
let's take a look at another one of your projects that you have on here. It's been sitting off stage here. That looks like one of our samplers. No,
It's actually
it's
not one of yours.
No,
It's
it's not.
hooked by handmade, hooked on
Mhm.
handmade.
Mhm.
And this one, I actually have it here. I made that for my boyfriend when we were first dating.
Mhm.
It was all with scrap yarn I had left over from other projects. And it was a really cool way to, he just likes anything colorful. Like to me, I look at this, it feels a little messy. To him, he looks at this and it's like he's obsessed with every square. So it was like really a perfect gift for him. And yeah, it was cool to learn it was really a learning process for me, all these different stitches. Yeah.
It's kind of interesting. I was thinking about we did actually I think some of the cruisers will remember this. That was crochet cruisers, crochet for the cruise ship. We were thinking about they were doing a blanket, and the blanket was this really awful brown, like SH brown. It was anyway. They ended up giving it to a child, and the child loved this blanket. And so then the crocheter said, well, why do you love it? And he goes, it's like chocolate bars. And so I think sometimes us adults, we're so critical on our coloring that we don't necessarily see it. It's like that other blanket you did. Actually, I love the coloring of that other one, even though it's not you. But it's amazing how a different point of view on something can change exactly the meaning of something. Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, so sometimes I think we're our worst own critics, I think.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And that goes not just for crochet. I work for an interfaith organization. And I know we're talking about crochet here, but just
what is interfaith? I don't know what that is.
Anyone, essentially we bring people together to talk across difference, primarily around religion and faith, but it's not that everyone involved is of a religion or a faith. But it's the same thing where a lot of times you find that there's a shift of perspective. It could be the same thing that you're hearing in different words that like give something a different meaning.
One thing I've sensed in this last hour with you, Sarah, is that you seem to be well grounded on diversity. Am I misreading that? You just I've been listening to some of your word choices and the way that you're talking about your friends, people that you're meeting. You seem like you're open-minded about diversity and understand that people's differences as a whole. Yeah,
I would say that's true.
Yeah.
I grew up in a really diverse community, and my family is incredibly diverse, and now it's the work that I do also. So
do you think that moving around the world like you did, you starting off in Connecticut, going to Puerto Rico, to Israel, oh my God, I'm remembering this shit.
I'm impressed.
And then going to Philly. Yeah, I am too, actually. do you think that's given you more of a rounded view of just the like lifestyles and people as a whole by moving around like that?
I don't know that I would say rounded view as much as I would say just an understanding that I have a very limited view.
Mm-hmm.
Like even I've spent some time in Uganda, like in the bush in Uganda. And it was like, on the one hand, it was with a Jewish community that was like very similar Jewishly to what I had grown up with and what I liked.
Mm-hmm.
And in every other way, it was totally different. And so it was just kind of, it's less of like a well-rounded perspective and more of just like a recognition that I'm only going to have a limited perspective. And I'm fine with that.
You know, one of the things that I've been really tossing around in my empty brain of mine is that, you know, we're only here for a very small, limited time. And I was watching somebody else having a bird about something that's so minute in the whole grand scheme of life. And it's like, and I find myself as I'm maturing is that I don't worry about stuff like I used to. And it's like you realize that you have not much control. But then I'm also more open to people being different as well, because I'm like, you know, that's what they chose. It makes them happy. It doesn't really impact me in any way. So I find myself changing as life is going on. Especially last year, I felt like I graduated last year of just having more of an open mind to different things.
Yeah, it's an interesting process, and it's like, I would say, like, you know, I exist in a world where most people are college educated. I'm not college educated, and but there are certain things that when you share something like that, right, there's like comments that come with it. But then also I do think in general that people are more open, right? Like now I can share that and I'm not getting the same comments that I used to get about it. I do think that our world is shifting in its ability to, I'll use the tagline of my organization, dare to understand, right? Because it's not easy. But like if we don't, then I don't know, like I live next door to people who are so drastically different than I am, but sometimes we just need a cup of sugar for a cake that we're making and you still want to be able to knock on their door and
oh my God, you're exchanging sugar. Shit. That's amazing. So we're going to take a look at your last project of the evening tonight. And so this looks like it's a corner to corner concept.
Yeah. That's a pattern from a baby blanket book I have, or an Afghan or a throw, whatever, some book like that. Every square is a little corner to corner, and then I just arranged them to make them both as consistent and as inconsistent as I could.
Yes.
And I really liked how it turned out. So
you know, it's kind of funny. I was talking to my friend Kelly last night, because she's my junk food buddy at the group, that it's, you know, it's about whether we go organized and whether you stagger the thing or whether you just completely randomize and close your eyes. I love random, but I cannot achieve it because I'm just too hard on myself about that. You know?
Yeah. This is the current thing I'm working on. This is going to be, I have like a bunch more rows to do. So this is like a little puff. There are all these little puffs, 168 of them. It's for a rainbow baby, so that's why the colors are rainbow. But you have to arrange them in a random but not too random way. So it's like we sat down, my boyfriend helped me. We sat down for an hour and we kept randomizing the random. So
wow. You know what that reminds me of? Some of the older, it's going to be past your generation, but it's going to be just early in my generation. But does anybody remember that tool that this woman would smile on TV and then pop it out? And it would look, can you hold that up again? It would look just like that when she popped it off the tool. What was that thing? That she would wrap something and then pop, and then she would smile. Oh my God, I just did another one, but she made it look so easy. So we'll figure out if anybody knows what the hell I'm talking about.
Someone will put it in the comments here.
So how long does it take to make one of those things there?
The puffs are really quick. They take about 9 minutes each, but connecting a row of 12 takes an hour per row. So, oh, daisy maker, was that it?
The daisy maker. You know, Bruce is my neighbor here. just a couple roads away. But that man seems to recall all this shit last time. Okay, so this would be a Bruce question for you. Do you know who Casey and Finnegan are? Okay, we'd like to thank Sarah so much for joining us this evening.
For the record, I also grew up with no pop culture. I had no TV. I had no music. So don't hold it. It's my parents' fault.
Oh my God. It's kind of funny. There's a Canadian kids show of Casey and Finnegan, and anyway, it's very intertwined with our growing up in Bruce's, pretty much in the same area. So yeah, so it's kind of funny, the different personalities that we get to meet along the way, and it has been a pleasure to speak with you tonight.
You too.
I've had a few good laughs. You've enlightened me quite a bit, and I think one thing that is my fresh air is that I do feel like that sense of welcoming. You have a presence about you that feels very welcoming, and I just really admire that in you, Sarah.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
It's so fun to talk to you, and I always see you online, but it's nice to have a personal interface with you and learn from your wisdom and the paperclip and everything else, so.
It's kind of funny, like when I had that intervention with Karen earlier last year, I said, I just want to talk to regular crocheters because I get sick and tired of these podcasts where they're interviewing each other pretty much. You're an influencer, I'm an influencer, let's talk and blah, blah, blah. But I just love the idea that I can tap into somebody just like you and other people that we've met along the path this year. It's like you and including the other guests are changing my trajectory of what crochet is. And because I think I just got myself into this hole of just continuing to circle this shitty drain of just like, okay, I'm doing another blanket. Why am I doing another blanket? But then I'm listening to you. You're talking about that silly little bird you did. But then I'm listening to it's still cute. And it may not be the best now, but it gave you that joy in the moment. And I think I've forgotten that about crochet. Those joyful moments at the beginning. Yeah. So what's next? What's going to be your final project before we sign off? What's your next thing on the hook?
I have another baby blanket to make. Everyone's pregnant right now, so it's.
Oh my! Do they know what's causing that? Honestly, I'm going to show you my big ball that I got while I'm here. I meant to have it at my desk. So, have you seen these big balls that are coming out by Your Inspirations?
I have. I've seen them. I haven't seen them in person, but I've seen all these pictures of that.
It's huge, Sarah.
That is crazy.
It's huge. It's like, oh my God, if I start sniffing midway through, I'm going to run out of breath by the time I get to the other side of this ball. Yeah. Like, it's just huge. Somebody actually asked me to compare it to Karen anniversary cakes. I really don't know, but it's huge.
It looks like a dog sized. I was going to say
baby because I think this is bigger than a baby coming out of.
It looks bigger than a newborn for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I actually think this is bigger than my cat. But Bruce has a really fat cat, so they're probably not. This is probably smaller than his cats. He's got coon cat, Maine coon cats, I think. But anyway, I'm pretty excited about this. So it's apparently the color of the year for Interstellar.
Ooh,
so
all right.
I know. So yeah. So that's the only thing that's on my desk that's kind of interest right now. So I'm midway through doing a lot of tutorial work. My octopus is still in pieces from last week. So it's just that my ADHD keeps kicking in every time I'm sitting at this desk. I'm like, oh my God. Anyway.
I've learned a lot about ADHD recently, and I've learned I do not have it, but I've learned to appreciate it as a superpower. So I hope that it feels that way. So.
Yeah, it's
at least sometimes.
It's a sickness because I sit here and the next hour, I'm already doing something new and I haven't realized that I've switched what I'm doing because my brain is like boom, 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 boom. And then sometimes I'm like, why am I switching stuff? I got to get this shit done. So it's really quite a thing. So Sarah, this is it for tonight. We thank you so much for being a guest. We're going to be back here next week, everybody, at 7 p.m. Eastern time. And Karen will be back off the vessel, and she will be our hostess with the mostest, jumping in and keeping the conversation rolling. I think I did an okay job tonight.
You did great.
I know. I actually think I did. But I still need her because, who doesn't need Karen? So that's going to be it for tonight. So when I come off the line, I didn't tell you. So when we go to our break, you can have a great evening. And thank you so much for spending some time with me. It meant a lot. And thank you so much for enlightening me tonight.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity to chat.
Okay, so you're going to hold and do this in 3, 2, 1, and we'll see you later, everybody. Bye-bye.
Oh, wow. Just wow. I've seen paint dry with more compelling plot twists. Apparently, professional content creator now means someone who can hold a phone and accidentally press record. Thanks for sharing that experience with me. Misery loves company, I guess. My wine glass is also tragically empty, and I'm pretty sure my popcorn bowl is now just a sad, oily husk of its former self. And, like, obviously, we're taking this one to our graves. Hey, remember that time I watched Mikey? Yeah, no, that's a secret for the ages. Next Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern. Let me check my schedule. Oh, look, it's completely clear. I have nothing better to do than subject myself to further entertainment. It can only get better, right?